Ivanka Trump has once again decided to give her father credit for something that he had almost nothing to do with. And I'll explain. A reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So here's a tweet. She says this: fact. Greenhouse gases generated by the US will slide 9.2% this year, tumbling to the lowest level in at least 3 decades. Well, I mean, look, it is true. Greenhouse gas emissions have fallen. But the reason for that is not anything that Donald Trump or the Trump administration has actually done. If anything, the Trump administration has actually done the opposite. They did everything they could to increase emissions from carbon and greenhouse gases. In fact, I've got some examples. For one, the Trump administration, we all know he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He's also deregulated the coal industry, ramped up oil and gas production, eliminated over 100 Obama-era regulations, some of which, of course, did aim at cutting greenhouse gas emissions. Let me go more specific here. Back in August, the Trump administration recently rolled back a regulation on methane, effectively freeing oil and gas companies from the need to detect and repair methane leaks. So now there's a big report in the Washington Post that came as new research shows that far more methane was escaping into the atmosphere than is actually known. And so we have these reports that a certain amount of methane escapes, but actually the report notes that because of the way that we collect that information and because there are unknown leaks of methane, well, there seems to be a lot more going into the atmosphere than we thought. And that, of course, is exacerbating warming. Methane is about 20 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere as carbon, even though it lasts in the atmosphere a lot less. It stays in the atmosphere for a lesser amount of time. And so there's that, right? And look, back in June, by the way, the Trump administration finalized carbon emissions rule for the U.S. power plants in order to try to prop up the coal industry. So the coal industry is a dying industry. They're dying despite an attempt to try to prop it up. There's less people now working in coal than there is in solar. So they've actually got a really small, shrinking workforce. And so that basically means that coal is essentially a fringe special interest group for Republicans right now. And so what I think that we need to do for coal miners especially, I don't really care about the CEOs and the mine owners, like who cares? We need to make the people who are working in coal, who are actually doing the work, and give them education, a free education, or some sort of retraining in order to do maybe solar or wind power jobs, a better job, make sure that they have health care or an equal pay as for when they worked in the mines, or even better. And then once the workers are set, all the workers are successfully integrated into other industries and are making comparable wages or even better, shut down the mines. Gone. Get rid of it. Done. We need to end our reliance on coal. And that's it. And there are other examples of the administration, of course, gutting Obama-era regulations, as I mentioned before. But I want to show you the real reason why we've seen a decrease. And it's not even really a 9% increase. So Ivanka's actually wrong. Net emissions are actually expected to be 6.4% lower after taking into account the unusually extreme forest fires. And of course, the coronavirus, which is the big driver as well of the reduction in emissions. And so, nonetheless, as a result, ironically, the United States, and this is funny, is inadvertently back on track to meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Agreement that the Obama administration had joined and Trump had left. So, thanks to the bungling of Donald Trump, and despite the forest fires, which were massive, which were definitely contributed by climate change, we somehow still ended up back on track for Obama's climate plan. How ironic is that? That's fucking hilarious. That is awesome. And yet, here comes Ivanka saying, we made that. We did that. We did it. Are you sure you want to take credit for this? Seriously? I mean, again, this is a result of severely bungling your coronavirus response. And understand, too, remember that 70% of the emissions are emitted by just 100 corporations. It's not necessarily a result of people like driving less, even though that is true. You have these business shutdowns, these corporations that are not emitting as much carbon in the atmosphere because they're not, because they've been shut down as a result of COVID-19. And so it is interesting. Without COVID, we would be breaking records in how much carbon we're putting in the atmosphere as a result of Trump's policies. But yet here she comes and she's like, I don't know, I'm going to take credit for this, because that's what we do. We take credit for things that we didn't actually do. So that led to fun on Twitter with Kevin Cruz tweeting, "You're so right. We often forget the silver lining to the inept bungling of the coronavirus response. That, along with 250,000 dead and an economy ground to a halt, with no stimulus, by the way, the reduction in travel was actually good for the environment." Yay! I know. Grudgy the Whale says, "Because people stayed home from the pandemic, you psychopath." I would say sociopath. There's no way that Ivanka actually feels anything about anyone who's worth less than $1 million. She probably never even met anybody worth less than $1 million. Seriously, not in person. Not within like a 6-foot radius. And I'm pretty sure that was before coronavirus too. No pore, the no pores allowed zone, like right around her. Yeah. There's more. Dan Sloan says, "You are so bad at this." Yeah, and it's almost as if Ivanka is not smart as a person. I mean, look, she's had ample opportunity to learn, to go to school, to do things, to be smart, but she's not. You know why? Because she's pretty. I mean, again, you can be pretty and smart. She's just not. She's made absolutely no effort at work or being smart. And so she proves that every time she opens her mouth, every time she tweets. And that's a fact. That's a fact. All right. One more here. Actually, two more. Jeff Savage said, "It's almost like Jared's bungling of COVID created the economy or something." Right? And then there's this. This is just fun. "Look, Daddy, I'm governmenting." So good. So good. January 20th cannot come soon enough. I can't wait to get these cosplay grifters out of the White House. They have no idea what they're doing. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.